We know tomatoes as a bright, juicy, and nutrient-rich staple in salads, sauces, and countless American meals. They're packed with vitamins, antioxidants, and lycopene, a compound widely studied for its potential to support heart health and protect against oxidative stress. But here's the issue. If you mix tomatoes with certain foods, you could be inviting inflammation and digestive problems, rather than reaping all those potential benefits. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which 3 foods to avoid pairing with tomatoes if you want to stay on track toward better health. You'll also learn about 3 pairings that can boost tomatoes' positive effects, all with simple adjustments you can make right at home. First, let's remember why tomatoes are so popular among older adults in search of natural remedies. As we age, we often notice new aches in our joints, slower digestion, and more sensitivity to acidity or rich foods. We're looking for ways to support our hearts, brains, and immune systems without relying entirely on medications or harsh chemicals. Tomatoes fit neatly into that lifestyle. Besides containing lycopene, which research suggests can help reduce oxidative stress, they're a good source of vitamin C, potassium, and fiber. Raw or cooked, tomatoes can be incredibly nutritious. But you may have heard the whispers that tomatoes can cause acid reflux or discomfort in some people, especially those who already have gastrointestinal sensitivity. It's not that tomatoes are dangerous on their own. It's the misguided combinations that can turn them into a source of trouble. In this video, I'll walk you step by step through 3 extremely common foods in American kitchens that should never be combined with tomatoes. These are not obscure items that only show up in fancy restaurants. They're likely in your fridge or pantry right now. The problem is, many older adults have no idea that these combos might be blocking tomatoes' nutrients or triggering new problems in their bodies, such as indigestion, inflammation, or even interfering with how vitamins and minerals are absorbed. But do not worry, these issues are completely avoidable with a few small changes. Then, for every food you should avoid, I'll give you healthier alternatives and share 3 good companions for tomatoes that can actually enhance their health-promoting properties. Once you see how easy it is to enjoy tomatoes the right way, you'll wonder why you ever combined them incorrectly in the first place. Before we jump in, let's talk about why tomatoes are considered so beneficial. Lycopene is one of the superstar compounds in tomatoes. It's a carotenoid that gives tomatoes their red color. More importantly, lycopene can act as a powerful antioxidant, helping protect our cells from free radicals. These free radicals are unstable molecules that can contribute to aging and disease, especially if they build up in your tissues over time. Some people report that regularly eating tomatoes helps them maintain smoother digestion and more stable energy, while others say tomatoes, when cooked properly, can soothe inflammation around joints. Research into lycopene's role in heart health and brain function is ongoing, but the results so far suggest it's well worth including tomatoes in your diet, just not in ways that invite the wrong side effects. The first big mistake is pairing tomatoes with processed dairy products. Now, I'm not talking about all dairy. High-quality yogurt or a bit of fresh mozzarella can sometimes complement tomatoes without too many negative effects, as long as you watch portion sizes. The real issue arises with processed cheeses, flavor creamers, and heavily sweetened yogurts. Why does this matter? For one thing, processed dairy often contains additives, stabilizers, extra sugars, and artificial flavors. As we get older, our digestion can become more sensitive. The combination of tomatoes' natural acidity with preservatives found in processed dairy can irritate your stomach, lead to bloating or heartburn, and even keep your body from absorbing valuable nutrients. You might be someone who loves adding a slice of processed cheese to a tomato sandwich or whisking tomato sauce and powdered creamer into a soup to make it creamy. But if you're prone to acid reflux or indigestion, mixing tomatoes' acidity with these additives can double your discomfort. The proteins and preservatives in processed dairy can also bind to some of the natural compounds in tomatoes, making them harder to digest and potentially canceling out some of the lycopene's anti-inflammatory benefits. If you just can't resist that creamy texture, try substituting it with unsweetened plant-based milk like almond, coconut, or oat milk. Or use a small amount of real cream if you digest dairy well and your doctor hasn't advised against it. The key is to stay away from the ultra-processed varieties that come in plastic wrappers or are filled with chemical-sounding ingredients. A small portion of a more natural dairy option is far less likely to undo the good that tomatoes can provide. The second bad combination is tomatoes with vinegar-heavy foods. This might surprise you, because people commonly mix tomatoes with vinegar in salads, sauces, or pickled condiments. But remember, tomatoes are already fairly acidic, so piling on more acid in the form of vinegar can be especially tough on an older digestive system. Frequent high-acid meals can trigger acid reflux, heartburn, or even esophageal irritation over time. This is especially significant if you already deal with gastroesophageal reflux disease, GERD, or other gut sensitivities. Bottled salad dressings are one of the biggest hidden culprits here, because they often include strong vinegar, sugar, and sometimes chemical thickeners. When you pour that over a tomato salad, you create a highly acidic environment in your stomach. Overly acidic environments may degrade some of the tomato's delicate compounds or leave you dealing with discomfort afterward. You might also be someone who loves pickles or pickled peppers on top of a tomato-based sandwich or burger. The acidity in pickles can combine with the tomato's acid and lead to bloating, gas, or reflux. If you do enjoy vinegary flavors, consider using milder vinegar, like rice vinegar, in small doses, or offset the acidity with healthy fats or green vegetables. Instead of a heavy store-bought vinaigrette, whisk together extra virgin olive oil with a small squeeze of lemon or mild vinegar. Add a pinch of herbs, and keep the ratio in favor of the oil rather than the acid. This way, you allow tomatoes to shine without overwhelming your digestive tract. The third food group to watch out for is sugary cereals and refined baked goods. This one might not seem as intuitive, because we often picture tomatoes in savory dishes, not sweet breakfasts. But many people love creative recipes or convenience foods that combine tomato ingredients with processed carbohydrates. Think of a tomato-topped pizza using cheap white flour, or a microwavable tomato pastry that's loaded with additives and sugar. It can also pop up in tomato-based breakfast burritos that use refined flour tortillas or sugary cereals on the side, if you mix them all into the same meal. When you combine tomatoes with high glycemic, sugar-packed foods, you create a conflicting environment in your body. The sugar rapidly raises your blood glucose and promotes inflammation, whereas tomatoes are recognized for their anti-inflammatory potential. Instead of letting tomatoes do their job fighting free radicals, you counteract those benefits with a blast of refined sugar. Over time, this pattern can worsen insulin sensitivity, joint pain, or general inflammation. If you love having a touch of sweetness in your meals, there are ways to keep your tomato dishes healthy. Use whole grain bread with minimal added sugar when you want to enjoy a tomato sandwich. Cook up a breakfast of scrambled eggs with diced tomatoes, peppers, and onions, and top it with avocado instead of cheese sauce or sugary ketchup. By steering away from heavy sugar, you let the lycopene and vitamins in tomatoes work more effectively, and you keep your digestion on track. Now that we've clarified what not to combine with tomatoes, let's shift to the good stuff. How do we enhance tomatoes' power so that we get maximum nutrition and minimal side effects? You might think of tomatoes simply as a raw topping, but there are smarter ways to use them. First, remember that lycopene in tomatoes is more bioavailable. That is, easier for your body to absorb when the tomatoes are cooked. A slow-simmered tomato sauce or soup can provide a stronger lycopene boost than raw slices. Pairing tomatoes with healthy fats also helps, because lycopene is fat-soluble and needs some dietary fat to be absorbed effectively. Extra virgin olive oil is probably the most famous companion for tomatoes. When you sauté tomatoes in a little olive oil, the heat breaks down their cell walls, releasing more lycopene, and the oil makes it easier for your body to pick up those nutrients. Black pepper can offer a slight absorption boost too, the way it does with turmeric, though to a lesser degree. Don't worry about turning your meal into a spice bomb. A small pinch of black pepper is usually enough to help, and it won't overpower the flavor. Another winning partner is avocado. If you enjoy raw tomatoes in a salad, consider adding a few slices of avocado. The monounsaturated fat in avocado helps dissolve and deliver the lycopene. Plus, the creamy texture balances the tomato's acidity, making your meal less harsh on the stomach. A simple tomato avocado salad with a drizzle of olive oil and a pinch of salt can be quite delicious, especially if you top it with herbs like basil or cilantro. The same principle applies if you're cooking a dish that includes tomatoes. Toss in some avocado or nuts toward the end, so you're creating that synergy of healthy fat and tomato-based antioxidants. Raw honey, in moderation, can also pair nicely with tomatoes if you're seeking a touch of sweetness without the inflammatory spike of refined sugar. For example, you might experiment with a roasted tomato and honey glaze on vegetables. The honey provides some natural enzymes and antioxidants, and a small drizzle can cut tomato acidity without overloading you with sugar. Just remember that raw honey does contain calories and sugar, so keep your portions modest if you're managing blood sugar or calorie intake. Even a teaspoon in a dish can help balance out flavors and enhance your enjoyment of the tomato while keeping the meal relatively healthy. So to recap in a conversational way, tomatoes deliver valuable nutrients that help older adults maintain their health. But if you mix them with processed dairy, you risk inflaming your digestive system and blocking nutrient absorption. If you pile on vinegar-laden condiments, you may experience more heartburn, acid reflux, or GI upset because of excessive acidity. And if you pair tomatoes with refined sugars and flours, you effectively cancel out some of their anti-inflammatory benefits. On the flip side, cooking tomatoes, adding a bit of healthy fat, and rounding out the meal with herbs, vegetables, or small amounts of natural sweeteners can strengthen your body's access to lycopene, vitamin C, and other antioxidants. It's not complicated once you know the basic rules of synergy. At this point, you might ask, what about my beloved tomato soup with a grilled cheese sandwich? If that grilled cheese relies on processed cheese slices and white bread, you're not giving your body the best synergy. But you could make that meal less harmful by choosing a natural cheese in moderation, or trying a dairy-free alternative that doesn't have tons of additives, and placing it on whole grain bread with fewer chemicals. The tomato soup itself can be made with fresh tomatoes, simmered with onions, and a small drizzle of olive oil. A little care in your recipe can go a long way. Another common question is about tomato-based condiments like ketchup. Many commercial ketchups are loaded with sugar or high fructose corn syrup, which lands them straight in the sugary or refined food category. Combining that with a burger that might also have processed cheese gives you the perfect storm of acid, sugar, and chemicals. If tomatoes are important to you, consider making your own ketchup with minimal sugar or buying a low-sugar, preservative-free version. And if you do want cheese on that burger, keep it to a small serving of real cheese instead of processed. These simple decisions can help you balance your meal so that you're still enjoying tomatoes in a beneficial way. Let's also touch on how tomatoes can fit into a healthy lifestyle for older adults with specific needs, like heart conditions or arthritis. Many people with arthritis swear by tomatoes' anti-inflammatory potential, but some doctors caution that tomatoes can aggravate certain individuals who have nightshade sensitivities. If you feel increased joint pain after eating tomatoes, it might be worth observing how you react to them, especially if they're paired with inflammatory foods. It could be that the combination of tomato with something like processed meat is triggering the discomfort rather than the tomato alone. Experimenting with more balanced combinations, like a hearty tomato vegetable soup with beans, herbs, and olive oil, may reveal whether tomatoes themselves are an issue or if it's the pairing that's causing trouble. For heart health, tomatoes are often seen as beneficial, partly due to lycopene's potential protective effects on blood vessels and blood pressure. However, you don't want to drown out these benefits with too much sodium, sugar, or acidic condiments. When you're making a tomato sauce for pasta, opt for low-sodium or homemade tomato sauce. Add onions, garlic, and maybe spinach or bell peppers, and reduce the salt. You can enhance flavor with oregano, thyme, or basil. Then pair that sauce with a whole grain pasta. This approach helps keep your blood sugar steadier and amplifies the antioxidant capacity of tomatoes rather than negating it. Keep in mind that aging bodies are more vulnerable to nutrient deficiencies and digestive challenges. That doesn't mean you have to cut out all enjoyable foods. It just means you need to be a little more thoughtful about combinations. If you're noticing frequent heartburn or upset stomach after tomato-based meals, try spacing out acidic ingredients across different meals. For instance, if you're having a tomato-rich lunch, skip vinegar or citrus at breakfast or dinner. Let your body process one acidic element at a time. And if you suspect you're not tolerating a certain food pairing, keep a food journal for a week. Write down what you eat, how you feel, and see if any patterns emerge. Sometimes people ask if they should just take a lycopene supplement instead of dealing with the complexities of tomato-based meals. While supplements can be handy if you have significant food sensitivities, research suggests that whole food sources often provide nutrients in more synergistic ways. It's the interplay between lycopene, vitamin C, fiber, and other compounds in tomatoes that makes them so nourishing. Plus, a fresh tomato dish can taste wonderful and encourage you to eat other healthy ingredients, like vegetables, herbs, and whole grains. Supplements can't replicate the full dietary experience or the pleasure of sharing a simple tomato salad with family. One scenario that many older adults face is cooking for a household with varying tastes. Maybe you love tomatoes, but your spouse or roommate can't stand them, or they have to watch their sugar intake carefully. The good news is that the guidelines we've discussed will generally benefit everyone, not just older adults. Avoiding processed dairy, excessive vinegar, and sugary cereals alongside tomatoes is a smart choice for any age. If one person wants a tangy dressing, perhaps they can add it to the table, while another uses a gentler dressing. If you want cheese in a tomato dish, pick a clean, minimally processed brand. When you're cooking for multiple people, these adjustments can still be made individually, so that everyone's plate reflects their needs without forcing a complete menu overhaul. Now, let's wrap up the entire concept in a clear narrative. Tomatoes have earned their place in the spotlight for their potential to support heart health, fight inflammation, and provide essential nutrients. As we grow older, we particularly benefit from foods that help our joints, digestion, and cardiovascular system. Yet tomatoes can also pose some challenges, mainly because of their acidity and the ways people commonly combine them. Processed dairy puts a strain on digestion and can block tomatoes' antioxidants. High vinegar condiments or pickled foods can push acidity to uncomfortable levels, leading to heartburn or nutrient breakdown. Meanwhile, refined carbs and sugary items neutralize tomatoes' anti-inflammatory potential by spiking blood sugar and promoting inflammation. On the bright side, there's a wealth of better ways to enjoy tomatoes. Cook them with olive oil to release and absorb more lycopene. Add them to dishes that include healthy fats like avocado, nuts, or seeds for greater nutrient uptake. Consider using mild acid sources like lemon juice in moderation, and skip or limit the vinegar-laden dressings if you're prone to reflux. For sweetness, a tiny drizzle of raw honey is often more gut-friendly than refined sugar. And if you crave a creamy tomato soup, use high-quality dairy or a well-chosen alternative with minimal additives. By balancing acidity, fat content, and natural sweetness, you can harness the best of tomatoes while minimizing discomfort. It might feel like a lot to remember at first, but these principles become second nature once you begin practicing them. You don't have to give up your favorite tomato dishes entirely. Instead, think of each meal as an opportunity to match tomatoes with ingredients that complement them, rather than clash with them. Every small, mindful step we take, like choosing olive oil instead of processed cream, or whole grain bread instead of sugary cereals, accumulates over time to shape our overall health. The more we learn to work with natural ingredients, the more we can tap into their potential to support a comfortable, active life in our golden years. As I bring this discussion to a close, I hope you feel empowered to examine how you prepare and eat tomatoes. Remember, it's not about perfection. Nobody expects you to transform your entire kitchen overnight. But if you try just one or two of these tips, like swapping out that processed cheese for a small portion of natural cheese, or opting for a lighter dressing on your tomato salad, you'll likely notice that your stomach feels calmer, your energy remains steadier, and you may gradually start to appreciate tomatoes for the powerful food they truly are. If this advice has been helpful, do share it with friends or family members who might be dealing with similar concerns. We can all benefit from clear, straightforward information about how to make our everyday meals healthier. Growing older doesn't mean we have to give up flavor or variety. In fact, it's an opportunity to refine our dietary habits and discover new, delicious ways to stay healthy. Tomatoes fit beautifully into that vision, provided we respect their chemistry and avoid mixing them with foods that undermine their potential. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I encourage you to stay tuned if you want more tips on how to use other staple foods wisely in your diet. Until next time, take care of yourself, stay curious, and remember, what's on your plate can nourish both body and soul if you put it together thoughtfully. Take good care and enjoy your tomatoes the right way. That's all for now. I appreciate you spending this time with me, learning about how to protect and support your health in a simple, natural way. Aging gracefully is a long game, and every meal is a small step toward feeling your best. Keep experimenting, keep paying attention to what your body tells you, and don't hesitate to tweak your habits. If you find a new recipe that honors these principles, pass it on. Let's spread the knowledge so more people can benefit from these insights, especially those who might be quietly suffering from acid reflux, joint discomfort, or nutrient deficiencies, without realizing how something as common as a tomato could be part of a solution, or the problem. With that, I bid you a healthy, happy day, and hope to see you again soon for our next conversation about living well at every stage of life. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.